Good afternoon and welcome to the 12 Report. I am Judith Atibi standing in for Blessings Musugo. The headlines. Fight for freedom as Federal High Court denies bail request of 5 Al-Shabab suspects involved in Uwo church bloodbath case. And the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has declared war on power failures. A massive health care sector overhaul promised amid Nigeria's hospital meltdown. And deadly explosions rattle Hamas headquarters in Qatar. Political bureau left in chaos as violence erupts. As usual, we have our reporters stationed in different parts of the country. We have Joshua Marai and Idong Joseph joining us from the capital, Abuja. We also have Ameze Bazwaye live from Edo State. As always, we have the details right here. Join us. You're welcome. And we begin in the capital, Abuja, where the Federal High Court has delivered its ruling on the bail application filed by 5 alleged Al-Shabab members accused of carrying out the attack on St. Francis Catholic Church in Owo, Ondo State, southwest Nigeria. The 5 defendants, facing a 9-count charge bordering on terrorism, have all pleaded not guilty. And we're now joined live by our judiciary correspondent Joshua Marai, who is at the Federal High Court in Abuja, to give us the details of the ruling. Joshua, what's the outcome of this ruling at the courts this morning?
Unfortunately for the defendants, particularly the suspect being arraigned at the Federal High Court, they have just denied the bail application put forward by their lawyers, and Justice Emeka Nwite actually gave his reason. Here are the reasons why. Now, on the merit of the case, Justice Emeka Nwite faulted the applications of this defendant for being incompetent, reason being that the lawyer seems to file what seems to be like a joint application for the 5 of them, whereas on the count charge and the count sheet on several occasions, separate counts were read out and separate counts were filed for these defendants. And what the law states is that for each of these defendants, when applying for bail, they are to file separate affidavits. Unfortunately, the lawyer did not do that. He filed a joint application for this defendant, and the court found them wanting on the merits of that. But however, for the meat of the bail ruling, Honorable Justice Emeka Nwite actually denied them bail, considering the gravity of the case, of the crime in question. And of course, you know that terrorism is a capital offense according to Nigerian law. And the court is saying that if these individuals are led back into the society, there is a tendency of them actually distorting the safety of Nigerians, particularly those around their the environs where they reside. And there's a possibility of these alleged attackers replicating the same heinous crime that they are being accused of. And secondly, they say the judge actually ruled that the defendants might jump bail if granted, considering the link, the alleged link they have with the international and well-known Al-Shabab terrorist cell. Moving forward, the judge also said that these individuals, if led back into society, there's a possibility that they might tamper with witnesses and the facts of the case, and perhaps some of the testifiers and the witnesses who have been endorsed by the DSS are already crying foul play that if these individuals are led back into society, that they fear for their safety. So these were the reasons why Justice Emeka Nwite actually denied the bail request of these individuals.
Joshua, many thanks for that insight. I appreciate you for doing this with us. Joshua Marai, there, our judiciary correspondent all the way from Abuja. The switch gears now to legislative matters as the House of Representatives Committee on Appropriations is set to meet with senior officials from key financial institutions, including the Minister of Finance, the Debt Management Office, and the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation. The engagement will focus on critical national financial matters, with outcomes expected to shape fiscal transparency and accountability in Nigeria. And now joining us from the National Assembly is our correspondent, Idong Joseph. He joins me live now. Idong, can you confirm if the meeting has commenced and just how significant is this engagement?
Well, as at the time I came out to give this update, the members of the committee are already seated and about to go for a closed-door session. while they wait for their invited guests to come in. And looking at the significance of this meeting, bringing three key financial management, top financial managers of the nation to just one room to discuss issues on financial matters of the nation, it's significant because it gives lawmakers that opportunity to scrutinize majorly the 2025 budget. Of course, you understand that this year is just left with less than 4 months, and the 2025 budget is still there. So it gives them the opportunity to scrutinize and know how far the implementation of the 2025 budget has gone. And of course, again, you understand that in few weeks, the federal government is going to present the 2026 budget, and that is why this meeting is significant, so they can know their standing. And also looking at the debt profile of Nigeria, as it has risen over the past few years, it gives lawmakers also an opportunity to scrutinize and ask the relevant questions to reasons why this has been increasing over the years.
Right. Joshua, we appreciate you for coming on. Joshua rather, Idong Joseph, I beg your pardon, forgive me. Thank you so much for coming on and just giving us that insight. We wait to see how this engagement will play out and what it means for our fiscal transparency and accountability. Idong Joseph, they are correspondent live from the National Assembly. And now to health matters. The president of the country, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has reaffirmed his administration's commitment to overhauling Nigeria's health sector with a strong emphasis on tackling the persistent power supply crisis crippling the nation's hospitals. Represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, at the National Stakeholders Dialogue on Power in the Health Sector in Abuja on Tuesday. The president declared that no Nigerian should lose their life because of electricity interruptions in medical facilities. Tinubu described the situation as unacceptable and pledged that his government would prioritize sustainable energy solutions for health facilities nationwide. Still talking healthcare, it was a day of honor, reflection, and renewed commitment to healthcare in Nigeria as the country joined the rest of the world to celebrate the International Nurses Week 2025. A theme for this year's commemoration is Our Nurses, Our Future. Caring for nurses strengthens economies. And News Central's correspondent Bettina Nweli reports.
The event, which held at the State House in Abuja, brought together nurses, government officials, and stakeholders in the health sector. The focus was on recognizing the critical role nurses play, not just in saving lives, but in building stronger health systems and supporting economic growth.
As frontline providers and patient advocates, they play an irreplaceable role in delivering safe, effective, and compassionate care. Investing in nursing education and practices is not only a moral imperative, it is a strategic action that strengthens health system and drives economic growth.
You are the change we see, not only in State House Medical Center, but nationwide and worldwide. As you embrace this journey, remember that every moment you spend with a patient is a moment of transformation, a chance to make a difference. You may be the last person that patient may have contact with, and your empathy may change that patient's prognosis.
And this year's theme is telling us that you have to care for the nurses, caring for the carers.
Speakers at the event emphasized that investing in nurses' welfare, training, and working conditions is essential to improving patient care, tackling workforce shortages, and strengthening national economies.
Of challenges. It's no more in news that the nursing department or nursing profession, they are the backbone of any institution of health. But unfortunately, in State House Medical Center, we are self-made. They don't even, most of the training, we sponsor ourselves.
However, I can only join the HOD nursing and the chairman to call for improved remuneration for all healthcare workers.
commemoration also served as a call for more policies that prioritize the health workforce, with renewed commitments to empowering nurses as frontliners of healthcare delivery in Nigeria. In Abuja, for News Central, Bettina Nwili.
And now to the energy sector. The Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, NUPENG, has suspended its ongoing nationwide strike over its face-off with the Dangote Group. NUPENG had on Monday declared nationwide industrial action to protest the refusal of the Dangote Group to allow its workers to join the union, particularly NUPENG. It was gathered that the strike was called off after parties reached an agreement at a meeting convened by the Department of State Services, DSS. The meeting was attended by the Ministers of Labour and Finance, as well as officials of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. Now, to discuss this further and just give insight and analysis, we're joined by economic analyst Mukhtar Mohammed. Mukhtar, it's always a pleasure, sitting down and discussing with you, and thank you for joining us in the studio.
Thank you.
We've seen how this is played out, and so I want to talk about, strikes. How can strikes really rattle supply chains, especially in critical sectors like petroleum, and just energy sectors? And mind you, I saw a tweet, by the way, where someone was saying, seeing how this is played out really shows how, unionization in our labor forces is very important and just shows the gaps. But your take?
I think it's not supposed to be an issue, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's a private business, and again, unionism is optional. You know what that would have cost to the Nigerian economy, especially the oil and gas sector, that we are seeing relatively peace at the moment, because we've not experienced the kind of peace in terms of price movement, in terms of stability. This is the first time we are seeing that. And I think I have to commend the presidency, the DSS, the minister, and also the downstream for intervening in this issue, because I thought it was not, it's not supposed to be an issue. As long as unionism is optional, like I said, if Dangote says when you sign a bond to work in my refinery, you have to sign that you will not belong to any union. It's up to you to either you sign that bond or you don't sign. And when you look at unionism using strike as a weapon, it's not something that is becoming obsolete, because what they finally did with Dangote was what I thought they should have done initially: have a meeting, and then if that meeting doesn't have headway, you must make sure you have tried to exhaust all means of communication before resorting on strike.
But what does this say about the balance of power? In this case, Dangote at this point has been accused of pretty much everything from monopolization, to wanting to be a one-man army. He's been pretty much has flouted all the rules, and his take would be like, there's really no rule when capitalization is involved. But where do you strike the balance here in terms of power?
Is up to the people that are engaged by Dangote. That's where you strike the balance, because you are the one that is involved in this. I mean, the union will not put food on your table. The union ensure when you are employed, that's when the union, you pay fee to the union. If you are not employed, how do you pay those fees and how do you go about it? I'm not against unionism, but you're taking it too far you've seen them do picketing in some other multinational. This is not good for international. It's only in Nigeria you keep seeing those things like that happen. Union has become a pressure group to fight for the demands and legitimate demand. I expected the union to be talking about improved healthcare, improved transportation. You shouldn't forget that before now, you might think it's the union, but a lot of people feel, and I'm inclusive, feel that the cabal that have held this nation, oil and gas sector for years, are beginning to see that they are losing it out. And again, they are using the union, because what is the benefit of this is because of the CMG trucks that is being introduced and how these trucks will now drive down logistics. Some of these people always think that they might not always be in business. You remember that the independent market have complained about that aspect of it. Yes. So it's all about trying to save their own side, because they generally have refused to do business with Dangote, feeling that they could still be importing refined petroleum products into the country, which the PMIB actually gives you room for that. Nobody can stop you from doing that.
But don't you think that they have, legitimate concerns, right? Because, again, you're saying that if they don't move with the trends or be able to work with Dangote, their fears are valid. They might be phased out. They have to cry, and, sort of cling on to something. But considering, I mean, you mentioned the DSS and the two federal ministries, ministers who were involved in the negotiation or the mediation phase, but it shows signs of fragility when it comes to the industry itself and how they are industrializing and unionization and the rights of workers in these ways.
You know, you're talking about the right of workers. Again, you talk about 36,000 employees that will be coming into Dangote refinery. And I think NUPEN is just being strategic in this point. They know that the Dangote will very soon become the largest employer of labor in that sector. And if you don't have them as members of your organization, you might be losing out. So it's more or less trying to protect your organization to the detriment of whoever investment that has been done in that refinery. I'm happy that the ministry intervened, and I'm happy the Minister for Labor, because that would have sent a wrong signal to international investors, because you're investing so much like what have been invested in it, building Dangote refinery, and you can't be stopped from operating by a singular union having a demand that I think is optional for anybody to be.
But do you see this as a sign of fragile industrial relations, given how three very high officials in terms of intelligence agencies and the federal ministers having to step in?
I would look at it. I would say looked at how important the sector is. That particular sector is not.
I mean, it's one of our highest contributors to GDP.
It's the life wire of the Nigerian economy. So they know what that one state go on that strike, the impact on the ordinary Nigerian, the impact on the food price, the impact on the transportation, the impact on virtually everything will be huge. I think that's what they are looking at. And at times like this, where we're having security challenges, where we're having high cost of living, people are looking for opportunity to take advantage, they needed to intervene. They needed to intervene.
Dangote, when you look at Dangote itself as a whole, whether before his refinery came on stream and before he started it, it's been a long journey coming, and now that he's on stream and refining and putting out, there's still so much that is involved, and the industry or the company seems to always be in the news. At this point, can the Nigerian oil and gas sector or oil energy sector itself remove itself from Dangote and understand that this is a private company or public-private entity, whichever, and focus on our other sectors and improving?
It's not possible, because again, you are looking at the largest player, and you're looking at one of the largest petrochemical industry in the world, and it's definitely, like I say, you are looking at the numbers of employees that will be there. So you definitely don't want to lose that in such a strategic labor organization, because what it means is that Dangote refinery workers will be the key drivers of most of their projects. If they don't join, definitely that means they might not have the kind of impact they want to have. I think that is what they are looking at. But the man Dangote have been synonymous to a lot of controversy, talk about monopoly, talk about that. That's what they are pushing. That's the narrative being pushed out now. But what I always ask is, what do you call monopoly? There's always a law of the first. When the first comes in, it seems like it's monopolizing. You can't say Dangote is monopolizing the sector. It's just because the big elephant that is supposed to be a competitor to Dangote is not taking its rightful place, that's the NNPC. So if NNPC PLC was there doing what NNPC Limited was there doing what they have to do, there are other private refineries that are coming. It will come to a point that it will not be those monopoly, and they will have more of these people that will join the union. So for me, I think Dangote is enjoying that law of the first, but it's only a matter of time. We saw that in the telecom sector later on. So it's only a matter of time. But to say he's monopolizing that, I don't think I agree with that.
What would it take to diversify the sector? Because I mean, at this point, it looks like it's more than just political willpower.
It has to get more players into the sector. That's the only way to diversify that sector.
Aren't the hurdles too high to get more players?
It's not too high, because again, it's a level playing field. But Dangote, like I said, because of the law of the first, Dangote I enjoyed a lot of privilege compared to when you are coming in now. He used to enjoy the privilege from the central bank, FX being given to him at that time at about 360. This present one, even if the government wants to help you, they don't even have the resources. So it's more or less he's still to the advantage. That's the advantage you have when you talk about business talk about the law of the first. And so that's the law of the first is enjoying. It will take a huge investment, a huge capital to be able to displace him as it stands. And the only company that can do that is the NNPC Limited. One, not because of the fund that they have, because of the large infrastructure that they have. If we're talking about infrastructure, we're talking about movement of refined petroleum product. NNPC Limited does not need tankers drivers to move it. They have the infrastructure. They come a time that they used to pump refined petroleum product from Port Harcourt to Sokoto to Maiduguri. Those infrastructures are still there. That will only be the game changer. As it stands now, Dangote hold it for his.
Well, I mean, we've seen the president with his visit to Brazil and, you know, the bilateral deals that fell out of that. We hope that that would also mean diversification for oil and gas sector. But I do have to end this discussion. I must say thank you, Mukhtar, for taking out time to join us. Mukhtar Mohammed, as always, is an economic analyst and very insightful analysis there. Let's go on a short break. When we return, we switch guests to National Assembly, as all eyes are on the Assembly, and Senator Natasha Akpoti-Oduah has returned. Stay with us. You're welcome back. Now, the National Assembly barred Senator Natasha Akpoti-Oduah from resuming her legislative duties, maintaining that her suspension remains under legal review. Akpoti-Oduah, who represents Kogi Central, had formally informed the National Assembly on August 28th she intended to return on September 4th, marking the end of her 6-month suspension. She referenced a federal high court ruling in July that declared her suspension excessive and unconstitutional and ordered her reinstatement. Now, despite this, the National Assembly insists that the matter is still before the courts as appeals are ongoing. Senator Akpoti-Oduah also called for immediate access to her office, emphasizing her constitutional rights to resume full senatorial functions and the need to prepare for upcoming plenary sessions. Meanwhile, the Senate's refusal to allow Senator Natasha Akpoti-Oduah resume duties has sparked backlash from the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and constitutional lawyers. In a letter signed by Acting Clerk Yahaya Danzaria, the Senate said her suspension remains under judicial review. The PDP accused Senate President Godswill Akpabio of silencing opposition, describing the action as undemocratic. Senior advocates of Nigeria, including Adedayo Adedeji and Wale Balogun, argued that the suspension has lapsed by law, citing Section 60 and 68 of the Constitution. They warn the decision denies Kogi Central constituents representation and risks undermining constitutional order. And now to discuss this further, I'm joined by Christopher Sunday. He's a political analyst and lecturer at Kogi State Polytechnic. I want to say, first of all, thank you, Mr. Sunday, for joining us. We've seen a federal declaration or a federal court declare her suspension unconstitutional, yet the Senate has insisted that they're waiting for, that the matter is still in the appeal court and they're waiting for judicial ruling. First, we've seen the condemnation by PDP and other constitutional lawyers. What's your take on how all of this is played out?
Thank you for having me, my sister. First of all, at this era of democratic process of 25 years, by next month, Nigeria will be celebrating 25 years of independence. One would have thought that a child who is already 65 will conduct herself in the affairs of nations, where people will see her as worthy to be amongst policymakers in the affairs of the world. Unfortunately, we are here. We are here not because of our own doing. We are here because we have political businessmen, instead of representing the intent of the founding fathers and the populace of the nation. They are here playing games of personal interest and whatever you can call it. But let me go straight to your point. The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, Section 1(3) states clearly that any law, rule, or bylaw that contradicts the intention of the mother law or the Constitution is ultra vires, meaning it is null and void, meaning it cannot stand, it has no effect. But here we are, people playing politics with the life of the people. Senator Natasha is not representing herself. She is carrying the mandate of the people of the Kogi Central. But before I move forward, up until this moment from your introduction, I never knew that it is even an acting clerk that wrote that letter stopping Natasha. For me, I'm embarrassed because I've written a lot on this for the past 24 hours. Even the clerk himself, what power does he have to write, except if he's acting on the power or the instruction of the principal actors of the National Assembly, the Senate President, Majority Leader, and the rest of them. But the truth of the matter is that the Senate at this material time is on recess. And so I think they will be back on the 23rd. I am waiting to see what the Senate will do on that 23rd. And after this program, I shall be writing Natasha that we are following her down to that. I am from Kogi State, yes. I'm from Kogi East, not Kogi Central. But we're talking about the rule of law, democracy, and the well-being of the common man in Nigeria. Natasha is representing the Kogi Central people. So why have they denied the Kogi Central people adequate representation for the past 6 months? And then the acting clerk, for that matter, has that temerity, the audacity to write saying that the case is still in the court. By the way, the appeal in the court, who appealed it? Natasha herself appealed to know whether the Senate is right by stopping her or by suspending her for 6 months. Don't also forget that the Senate rule also states that the Senate can suspend a senator for just 14 days. It happens in the case of Ndume from Borno State. It also has happened between Darie and the Lailong in 2007. So where is this political desperation coming from? That some persons will, because of political interest, will be dehumanizing or stopping people from enjoying their democratic representation at the National Assembly. It is uncalled for, it is unlawful, and it must be condemned.
Mr. Sunday, and you just raising that pertinent concern about, the Kogi Central being left out when it comes to representation due to this suspension has been the same with constitutional lawyers. They have also raised concern that this kind of legislative vacuum is unnecessary, and they've raised warning about this. But at the core of this as well is another thing we're not looking at, and that's gender representation and inclusion when it comes to politics. When you look at the National Assembly, there are just 4 women. I stand to be corrected. And now that means there's just 3, which is suspension. What does this say about this administration's approach to women's participation or women in governance?
It is discouraging, my sister. We are at the crossroad where Nigeria ought to have been encouraging women to join politics. For women as mothers, as wives, to also have their own take or their voice on national affairs. Are we not seeing that in other developed or developing nations, that women are making contributions that is shaping the lives of their people? Come on, they are mothers. We know the impact of our mothers in our life. Our father may be providing money, but our mother attention, medical attention, detailed attention in our lives has shaped some of us. And then you are discouraging women. And the saddest thing is that in Kogi State, where I have been a panelist on 2-3 different occasions, just because of political benefit, I can see some people, even PhD holders, defending this anomaly, this political aberration, because they want to remain in the good book of their political godfathers. For goodness sake, why will you be tormenting a woman? Akpabio is a husband; he has a wife. The acting clerk, also, all of them in the National Assembly, they have daughters, they have wives. Most of them can even give birth to Natasha. Is it because she has decided to remain firm with her people, or they have decided to question authorities? They feel that, okay, this girl is standing on their toe, and so they think they can just dehumanize her, embarrass her. They have also forgotten that she is a married woman whose husband has also contributed to the political progress of some of them there in the National Assembly.
I must say thank you.
Women must be encouraged. Natasha should not be handled the way they are handling her. She has done a lot. The youth also should also stand by her, because she is within the cadre of the youth. They should encourage her for her to also continue to open the eyes of some of us who are coming behind her. Akpabio is a lawyer. Natasha is also a lawyer. So they should work. Both of them should also understand that there are certain precedents.
All right.
But we are going to correct it, be it wrong or right.
You have raised very pertinent concerns. I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us. Mr. Christopher Sunday is a political analyst and a lecturer at the Kogi State Polytechnics. Once again, thank you. We'll switch gears now to state matters, and this time stakeholders of the Ijo and Urobo ethnic nationalities are urging the Independent National Electoral Commission to immediately release and implement the final report of the Warri Federal Constituency Representation Exercise. The stakeholders made this demand during a demonstration at the headquarters of INEC in Abuja, where they also submitted a petition signed by 16 representatives of the affected ethnic groups. They called on INEC to suspend the ongoing continuous voters registration exercise in Warri North, Warri South, and Warri Southwest local government areas of Delta State until the representation report is made public and implemented.
We are fully abreast with the legal attempts and undue influences from various quarters to derail or truncate the process. We were invited to various stakeholder meetings by electoral officials in Warri North, Warri South, Warri Southwest local government areas, informing us that you have commenced the continuous voter restriction exercise in the aforementioned LGAs using the defunct arrangement which fell face down in the eyes of the law. Our patience and cooperation is being taken for granted as you have set machinery in place to disenfranchise us from participating in future elections. We can no longer wait while our democratic rights, guaranteed by the Constitution and reaffirmed by the Supreme Court judgment, are being eroded. Our irrevocable demand and conclusion, INEC should immediately release and implement the report painstakingly embarked upon by stakeholders. We should not be idly stand by and watch our democratic rights and franchise frittered away. A state in time saves none.
The people here have heard what you've said. I will tender this document that you have presented to the Commission. The Commission will look at this and will act on it. But let me assure you that as a Commission, we are law-abiding institution. And as citizens, we are also law-abiding citizens. Whatever the law says it has taken a decision on, we act on it.
And now to northeast Nigeria, Borno State, where 1 year after the devastating September 10th, 2024 flood disaster that claimed lives of many, displacing thousands and residents in Maiduguri, are still grappling with its painful aftermath. Communities such as Tudunwada, Dalla, and Kushari, among others, still struggle with stagnant water, as residents are calling on the Borno State government to construct durable, proper drainage systems to channel rainwater away from residential areas. News Central's Umaru Kirawa assesses the flood situation in some communities and tells us more. Take a look.
Recalling the 2024 Borno flood, the memory of the devastation caused by flood waters, which submerged entire neighborhoods in Nigeria's northeast, still lingers. For a state still recovering from years of protracted insurgency, its inhabitants face the worst of times brought about by the collapse of the Alau Dam.
We moved through different communities across Borno State to find out their challenges and, of course, their plea with the government, particularly with regard to the construction of drainage system across different parts of the communities in Maiduguri.
Ingi wa indiro duse chuluye jiriye le yara sare ingi yar ganaro ndo ku ingi nguro samma zuna
kamara nguro alan lambo tu kurado ne inji lungu falle go de le jinwa falma ba duk so fitiya kala le yana bodana la fanda trata fi da le lambo dana da dai waltu sanabcin yo share zauro challenge de be shala mo onji no don la lambo tu fande o lamboto layare kwalta mallam bitena layare kana lagone ya foto lenere ganandi ai kan miliyan faltulumin
ni da kaina yanzu haka nan bana cikin gidana dutu ruwa ya ci mu gabaki da iyalena da sauransu so sama da gida 200 a cikin angonan mutane ba sa nan so kuma muna ji a cikin gari da ana taimakon wanda ruwa suka ci amma banda mu.
For families who lost loved ones, the September 10, 2024 flood tragedy continues to bear a painful memory of their loss, but also an opportunity to call for government action to put in place stronger disaster preparedness.
Allah ya jarabe mu ruwa har ya ga dan mana ta'adi ya kashe mana kanwa guda ɗaya ma.
Because some people leave their homes and some people that have nothing to do they are coming to people's house stealing their belongings.
Cikin dare ma ba ma samu bacci saboda ruwa. Duk lokacin da za yi ruwa muna fargaba ba ma samu hankali mu ya kwanta.
With Alau Dam still under reconstruction 1 year after, despite an 80 billion naira approval by the federal government, the Borno state government says that it will include a comprehensive flood management strategy in its upcoming state development review.
Ngo anderi lady mbe ngo kolbeti di mbe kolbeti magana zero no ngui shi anje har kumodu ya har kalakcin.
Ya kamata a ɗauki babban mataki don saboda wannan abin an taya ana gani zai zo ya sa mutane cikin asara. A manyan na da biya gwamnati ya sa daro drainage jarin gilaro farakko kazu. Putu do kumodu ya de walti mbaro andero sudu.
While this poses a welcome development for many residents in the once affected communities, many believe that government's pledge to ensure community-based resilience programs will help tackle annual flooding in the state. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umoru Kirawa.
And off to Edo State, where a tragedy struck at Okpala when armed men ambushed a security convoy attached to the Boer Cement Group, killing 8 operatives of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps and abducting a Chinese expatriate. The attack, which also left several personnel critically injured, has thrown the community into mourning. News Central's Edo State correspondent Ameze Bazwaye joins us now with updates on the incident. Ameze, this was a deadly ambush that claimed lives. Tell me, what's the latest and how did this happen?
It's a really sad incident, if I do say so myself. Edo State has been awash with various reports of kidnapping, gunmen attack, and some other pockets of violence in some areas, in some parts of Edo State. But this one hits really hard because it's not just civilians, it's security personnel who was, of course, deployed to provide security to expatriates and, of course, workers at the Boer Cement right there in Okila, in Isako West local government area. So, it's quite sad that, unfortunately, those who were supposed to protect the lives of other persons, unfortunately lost their lives. About 8 of them lost their lives, and some are still in hospital, various degrees of injuries. But from a credible source in the Edo State NSCDC, we're aware that those persons who injuries are responding to treatment. It's a sad one. Residents are still living in fear. Some persons say they cannot come out from their homes because they don't know what next. You could go out today and tomorrow, the next thing you're hearing, someone has been kidnapped, someone has been attacked. So it's really a sad one, especially for those persons in Okila and in other parts of the state as well.
Amazing. Thank you. We appreciate you for that update. We understand that a manhunt is underway. We do hope that they catch the perpetrators of this crime, and hopefully the expatriate is rescued without harm. That's Ameze Bazwaye, our correspondent in Edo State. Let's go on a short break. When we come back, we bring you business as well as your postscript. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. The Federal Ministry of Works has introduced a funding prioritization framework to ensure the continuation of key road projects previously financed by the NNPCL under the tax credit scheme. Now, during a site inspection on September 9th, 2025, Minister of Works David Umehi confirmed that all inherited NNPCL-funded projects, especially those along vital economic corridors like the Eleme-One Road, will receive priority. He warned contractors against poor construction practices and mandated stricter supervision. Contracts below 20 billion naira, beg your pardon, will now be reserved for local firms under a Nigeria First policy. May set December 15th, 2025 as the final deadline for completion with no cost reviews. He also condemned damage from heavy-duty vehicle parking on federal roads. Still on infrastructure, the Minister of Works, David Umahi, is currently on an inspection tour of the Lagos-Calabar coastal highway to give us update on jobs done so far. Meanwhile, our correspondent Victor Mbadike reports that the minister is firstly checking on the status of the Carter Bridge, as we understand that it needs repairs as well. Now, Victor will tell us more. He joins us live now to tell us what the minister intends to achieve with this visit at the Carter Bridge. Victor joins me live from the Carter Bridge. I'm sure under the bridge, if we can establish. Victor, are you with me?
Absolutely.
All right. I can see that you are geared up, or suited up, and you're under the bridge. I'm certain you're on the boat. What's the latest with you?
And I'm also trying to be careful so I don't fall over the bridge.
You're a scaredy cat. You're a scaredy cat. Go ahead, give me your update.
Of course, the minister is currently here to inspect the Carter Bridge. The Carter Bridge, of course, like I said, is currently under distress, and the minister is here to check and look at some of the issues that needs urgent attention. For instance, there are urgent structural issues that has been identified by the Minister of Works. During the inspection, he said there's been some serious damage to certain aspects of that bridge. For instance, the corroded piles, the detached caps, and the original power caps as well. Some of the components critical to the bridge stability. You also need to note that he is very critical about some of the attitude of some Lagosians who use this bridge for trading activities. Now he's saying that activity or that particular action has put a strain kind of on that bridge. So in the next few minutes he will be speaking to us and giving us update and up to speed on what he intends to do to correct some of these issues.
We do understand, after inspecting this Carter Bridge, where else do you think he might be going to, Victor? What's his itinerary for today?
Well, Judith, I really can't say, but I'm pretty sure that he's poised to give us a very critical updates on what his ministry is doing so far in terms of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. Don't forget that project started a couple of years back, looking at covering about 730.105 kilometers. So he will be telling us exactly where they are today, if he's satisfied, of course, with the work done so far, or not satisfied, as the case may be. So when we leave here, I'm pretty sure that will be his next port of call. But at the moment, a couple of days or 3 days back, he came around there and felt that these also need the same level of attention, and it's important that he address some of these concerns, because of course the Carter Bridge is basically mostly used and applied daily by millions of Lagosians, and it's also part of his priority. So after which he will now begin to talk about what next, what he needs to do, what he needs to fix, and where we go from here as far as the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway is concerned. Judith.
Victor, thank you. We appreciate you for that update. Victor Mbadike there, our correspondent, live from under the Carter Bridge, as the Minister of Works, David Umahi, is inspecting the bridge, which means that construction may just be underway. And if you're in Lagos, that means traffic is getting worse. Now to DR Congo, as fighters linked to the Islamic State group killed 71 people in an overnight attack in the Democratic Republic of Congo's east. The Allied Democratic Forces, ADF, a group founded by former Ugandan rebels who pledged allegiance to IS, and that's Islamic State, in 2019, struck the village of Toyo in North Kivu province, where residents were attending a funeral. It follows a string of deadly raids by the mostly Muslim militia across North Kivu and neighboring Ituri province to the north in July and August. killing more than 100 civilians and shattering several months of relative peace in the region. The ADF had already killed more than 40 people in attacks on several settlements in the Pakperi sector on August 13th and 14th. Now to Doha. Explosions have hit a Hamas compound in Doha, the Qatari capital, where the group's political bureau is based. The blast followed Israeli claims of targeting senior Hamas figures abroad. The incident risks escalating regional tensions as Qatar has played a central role in mediating between Israel and Hamas. The explosion comes at a delicate moment with ceasefire talks in the nearly 2-year Gaza conflict stalled. Global outrage is mounting after Israel struck Hamas's leaders in Doha. U.S. President Donald Trump said he was not thrilled with the move, warning it would derail hostage talks and strain diplomacy. In Beijing, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Jun has condemned the attack as a violation of Qatar's sovereignty, warning it undermines fragile Gaza ceasefire efforts. Israel has defended the strike as part of its campaign against Hamas's leadership abroad. Qatar, a key mediator, has yet to issue an official response.
I'm not thrilled about it. I don't have to do that. I'm not thrilled about the whole situation. It's not a good situation. But I will say this: we want the hostages back, but we are not thrilled about the way that went down today. It'll happen. We have that one, and we have Gaza going on. We want to get them both solved, ended.
中方严厉谴责昨天发生在卡塔尔首都多哈的袭击行为，坚决反对以色列侵犯卡塔尔领土主权和国家安全的行径。
Some returns come with receipts, others come with centuries of silence. This week, Madagascar received back more than human remains. It received a chapter of history. After 128 years, France has returned 3 human skulls to Madagascar. One belonged to a Malagasy king who was beheaded by French troops during colonial conquest in the 19th century. The remains had been kept in French collections since the late 1800s, preserved but unacknowledged. And just last week, they were flown back to Antananarivo and honored with a solemn ceremony. Now they begin their final journey by road to Madagascar's west coast, where they will be buried later this week. For many, it's more than just perpetration. It's restoration, a symbolic act in a continent still living with the wounds of colonial legacy. Though France has returned artifacts and remains to several countries in recent years, questions remain about how many more are still held in museums and storage rooms across Europe. They say the dead tell no tales, but in this case, the return of a king's skull speaks volumes. It speaks about memory, about dignity, and about the unfinished work of righting history's wrongs. And that's your postscript. With that being said, we switch gears now to sports, as Benin Republic dealt Nigeria's 2026 World Cup qualification hopes a major blow, with former Super Eagles coach Garnet Raw guiding his new side to a crucial finish. And as always, Onyechi Obaru gives us more. Onyechi, chai.
Yes, Judith, at this time, hopes hanging in the balance, with Benin Republic having 14 points and pushed Nigeria to 3rd position with 11 points. There's a lot to hope for ahead of the qualification for the FIFA World Cup. We'll do more breakdown on In the Game at 1 p.m.
Well, make sure to join Onyechi at 1 p.m. for In the Game. And whilst you're at there, please keep your fingers crossed and keep your prayers in check. It's pretty much all we can take on the 12 reports. Now, do remember they can send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing at the screen. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV on every social media platforms. You can always watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Go TV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and also live on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith at TV. Good afternoon.